Today, we're talking about the business behind supermarkets. We're unpacking a highly sophisticated profit machine that is operating right beneath our noses. If you think grocery stores make their money just by, selling groceries, well, prepare to have your perspective totally shifted. We are going to uncover the brilliant and honestly sometimes ruthless mechanics of modern retail. Okay, let's dive into this with a scenario we've literally all lived through. You walk in with a plan to spend $20 on milk, bread, and eggs. Simple, right? But then you spot this giant display of soda. Buy two, get one free. Suddenly, your basket is loaded up with cookies and frozen pizza, and your $20 trip has quietly inflated to $53.80. Now, you probably blame your own lack of discipline. But what if every single aisle, shelf, and product placement was engineered to increase exactly one metric, the amount of money you spend before reaching that checkout register? Because here is the massive paradigm shift. Supermarkets do not make their biggest profits by selling food. They actually make their money by selling attention, shelf space, supplier access, and your shopping behavior. Everything changes once you start looking at the store through this lens. A supermarket isn't just a big room holding food, it's one of the most highly calibrated profit machines in the entire modern retail landscape.
To really grasp this, we're going to break down 4 key areas today: grocery retail, shelf space, private labels, and consumer psychology. You can basically think of these as 4 entirely different businesses operating at the exact same time under one roof. The longer you stay in that ecosystem, the more you buy. It is pure strategy.
So, let's break down that first business, the standard groceries. Take milk, for example. A staggering 98% of the price you pay goes straight to costs, leaving the store with a minuscule 2% profit margin. The everyday basics, milk, vegetables, bread, meat, they actually produce some of the smallest profit margins in the entire store. Bananas are frequently sold almost at cost. Now, why on earth would a business do that? Well, because they function as advertising to guarantee your foot traffic. They aren't there to make a huge profit, they are literally just there to get you through the front doors.
But once you're inside, you enter the territory of the second business, the shelf auction. A supermarket shelf is not just furniture holding boxes. Every single inch has immense value. That eye-level shelf, that is premium real estate. Brands frequently pay supermarkets massive sums for better placement. If a cereal brand wants their box exactly where a shopper naturally rests their eyes, that placement could cost them millions of dollars across a national chain. Shelf space is inventory, yes, but it functions identically to digital ad space.
Let's move to Zeka and see how this builds a complete picture across the supply chain. If we track a simple bottle of orange juice, we see a traditional downstream movement. It starts at the farm with the oranges. Then it moves to a processor to turn it into juice. Then a packaging company fills the bottles. A logistics company and a wholesaler distribute pallets of it. And finally, it arrives at the supermarket. By the time it hits the shelf, dozens of businesses have taken a slice of the money, leaving the supermarket with just a tiny fraction of the retail price.
But that flow of physical goods is only half the story. Notice how the money actually flows upstream. The juice company doesn't just send the juice, they also send money backward to the retailer. They pay the supermarket for that premium shelf placement we were just talking about. They pay for those big end-cap displays at the end of the aisles. They fund the promotional discounts and even contribute to the store's advertising flyers. So while products move toward the shoppers, massive marketing payments move toward the retailers. Manufacturers are competing for visibility every single day in this hidden economy that the customer never even sees.
Now, what's really interesting about this price comparison is how it reveals the third business, private labels. Imagine you're in the pasta aisle. You see brand A pasta sauce for $4. Right beside it sits the supermarket's own store brand version for $3.20. Most shoppers look at this and think, hey, I'm choosing the cheaper option and saving myself 80 cents. But here is the secret. The supermarket is often earning a significantly higher profit on that cheaper $3.20 bottle than they are on the $4 national brand.
How is that even possible? It all comes down to the private label advantage. When the supermarket sells its own brand, there's no expensive national advertising campaign to fund. There's no national sales team to pay. There's no middleman taking a cut, and absolutely no outside shareholders demanding a piece of the pie. The retailer completely controls the supply chain. In this moment, the grocery store has quietly transformed into a highly profitable manufacturing business. It's kind of like a local coffee shop that makes way more margin on its baked pastries than on the coffee itself. The supermarket just takes that model and applies it to thousands of items across the entire store.
But we can't ignore the immense, hidden risks of running this machine. I mean, it's not just printing money. Ask yourself, what happens when you miscalculate strawberries? Running a supermarket is incredibly volatile. Food expires. Nasty weather destroys harvests. Supply chains break down. If a store manager makes even one mistake in forecasting how many strawberries people will buy for a sunny weekend, they might end up throwing away hundreds of kilograms of rotting fruit into the dumpster on Monday morning. And it's not just forecasting. Even a single refrigeration failure overnight can destroy tens of thousands of dollars worth of inventory in a matter of hours. Fresh food is wildly profitable until suddenly it isn't. The biggest challenge in this business is trying to accurately predict tomorrow before it even happens.
So, with all these risks and incredibly thin margins on food, why does one supermarket thrive while an identical one goes out of business? Well, because convenience is a business model. Location is the variable that changes absolutely everything. You can have an identical store with the exact same products, the same employees, and the exact same prices. But if one is on a busy suburban intersection with easy parking and high-income shoppers, and the other is hidden away on a quiet road, they are going to have completely different outcomes. Supermarkets don't just compete on price. Most shoppers value their time way too highly to drive 20 extra minutes just to save $2 on a basket of goods. The closest store frequently wins, not the cheapest.
Let's put all this theory into the brutal math of a $100 grocery trip. Where does that money actually go? Well, about $65 immediately goes to pay suppliers for the actual products. $10 goes to employee wages. $8 covers rent, utilities, electricity, and running those massive refrigerators 24 hours a day. $5 just disappears into transportation and logistics. $4 goes straight into the trash to cover food spoilage and waste. And $3 pays for credit card processing fees, insurance, and taxes.
So the crucial point is $5. Out of a $100 shopping cart, after every single expense is paid, the supermarket is left with just about $5 in operating profit. That is a razor-thin margin. And this singular number explains everything else we've talked about today. It explains why they absolutely must charge suppliers for shelf space. It's why they desperately want you to buy their private label pasta and cereal where the margins are fatter. It's why they engineer the psychology of the aisles to keep you in the store just a little bit longer, hoping you'll buy just 2 more items. The basic groceries merely bring you inside. It's the hidden ecosystem of fees, placements, and store brands that quietly make the actual money. So the next time you walk into a supermarket, I challenge you to look beyond the shopping cart. Notice those items perfectly positioned right at eye level. Notice the aggressive placement of the store brands right next to the famous names. Notice how the essentials, like milk and eggs, are purposefully hidden at the very back of the store, literally forcing you to walk past thousands of temptations just to get your basics. You aren't just walking through a place that sells food. You are navigating a carefully engineered profit machine. And here's a final thought to leave you with. Now that you know you're walking through a space designed to hack your attention and manipulate your route, who is really driving the cart, you or the store? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time.